Welcome back. We're here with Lindsay Robertson. We've been talking with him some about some of the contemporary challenges facing American Indian folks, legally speaking. This is still a fascinating area, one that I keep trying to fight myself out of. My wife would have my head if I started accumulating more student loan debt. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what goes on down at the law school these days. What are you
I'd
up
be
to?
happy to. Yeah, Indian law today is a growth field like no other. Since we're decades now into what we call the self-determination era, in which there's been a relatively large amount of federal support, federal legislative support in particular, but for lots of the period, federal judicial support for expanded tribal self-governance rights, for the recognition of expansive tribal self-governance rights. Tribes are doing more and more. Tribal governmental structures are sort of reviving and building. All across the United States, tribes are becoming bigger players in the national economy, which means that Indian law sort of has suddenly become of enormous relevance to non-Indians, to people who just sort of, are interested in going about their business and working deals with tribes. So the number of students interested in Indian law has expanded. The number of Indian law programs at different universities has expanded. Certainly from when I started teaching Indian law in 1991, how many years ago that is. Back when there weren't that many people teaching Indian law and very few schools offering it, it was sort of a niche program. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, it's one of our two core programs. We have devoted a lot in the way of institutional resources to Indian law. We have two full-time faculty members who do primarily Indian law. We have a number of adjunct faculty who come in from the community that we bring in from tribal government and elsewhere to provide that sort of real-world exposure to students. The total number of kids we have, students we have who are citizens of federally recognized tribes is, and I understand has been for the last decade, the largest in absolute number and percentage in the United States.
Right, and I think that's something that you wouldn't find at very many law schools, that you had a large Indian contingent.
Yeah, no, this year's first-year class is 11%.
Oh, that's
native,
substantial.
which is, it's significantly higher than the percentage of tribal members in the state population as a whole. We offer a wide variety of courses, internship programs, out in Indian country and in Washington, D.C., and internationally, which is another sort of interesting aspect of the growth of federal Indian law.
Right, this is a new direction in some ways.
It's become international Indigenous peoples law. Yeah, and we are at the law school very involved in that. The United Nations in 2007 adopted a Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Right.
It's the first global instrument recognizing collective rights of Indigenous peoples all over the planet. U.S. tribes were major movers in the movement to get that adopted, and the U.S. signed off on it in December 2010.
After some negotiation.
After some negotiation,
yes.
Yeah. After some negotiation.
Well, you've got a new degree program down at the law school now too.
We do. We've long had the regular JD program, law program, which allowed students to specialize in Indian law and get some practical experience and research and writing experience, et cetera. But we started a couple of years ago a Master's of Law program for students who get their law degree, maybe at a place that doesn't specialize in Indian law, who would like to acquire that expertise so they can come and spend a year with us and get what's called an LLM degree in Native American law or in Indigenous peoples law. And then we started a program last year. We got authorization from the Regents for it, and we have our first cohort of students who started this year in, it's a Master's of Legal Studies program in Indigenous peoples law. It's a course that you can complete in 2 years. It's basically our entire Indian law curriculum, but taught at the grad student level. So we don't assume any prior knowledge of law, but at the same time we're trying to provide that information to students. The target audience is people like yourself, experts in other fields involving Native peoples, who keep bumping into legal issues and would like sort of a quick way to get your mind around them. Who has jurisdiction over what, and what are these major cases, and what do they mean?
I'm sure you'll have me hooked before long.
I'm going to keep working on it. But we also were interested in reaching tribal government officials, people who are working with lawyers and on cases, but who may not have had the opportunity for the training in the specifics of how the rules work, about what tribes do and what tribes can do. And people interested in doing business with tribes.
Right.
So our students include folks from all over the United States, and I suspect eventually internationally, once we start doing outreach, who are interested in seeing how the U.S. rules work in this area. The last thing, and maybe to lots of folks the most important thing I should say, is it's all online. Which is to say, you don't need to come to Norman to do it. You can do it at your own convenience. It's asynchronous, meaning there isn't one time during the week when we all meet. Instead, the lectures are recorded. You can access the professors through email.
Oh, right.
But you can watch when it's convenient for you, watch the lectures and do the reading, and then participate in online discussions and written work.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.